The SEC just paid $279 million to one person for their role as a whistleblower on successfully enforced corporate fraud. Here is how you can do the same thing.
Bradley Birkenfeld was awarded $104 million for helping the U.S. government crack down on tax evasion.
Blowing the whistle is becoming big business. A tipster is set to receive $30 million for alerting the SEC to a major case of fraud. That's more than double the largest amount to date.
This week, the SEC announced the largest ever award paid to a whistleblower for their assistance in an undisclosed case that involved a very big fine. The $279 million award more than doubled the $114 million reward that the SEC issued in October of 2020. In total, their whistleblower rewards program has paid out over $1 billion since it was established in 2010. The best part is because the Dodd-Frank Act protects the confidentiality of whistleblowers and informants, no additional information is known about the people who have received these life-changing payouts.
They are the voices of our conscience.
Behind every major fraud, if you look hard enough, you will find a whistleblower.
The Securities and Exchange Commission actually recognizes in their press releases that these payouts have added up to a lot of money that could have been given back to the victims of financial crime. But there is 3 good reasons that, despite the spiraling costs, the SEC has kept the program and actually doubled down on it, promoting it with payout leaderboards and flashy announcements every time a big payout is made.
Whistleblowers provide a critical public service and duty to our nation.
You get the feeling that if it wasn't for the informant privacy laws, they would present a novelty-sized check in front of the press like the whistleblowers just won the Powerball. But they can't. So if you decide that you like the idea of a completely anonymous multi-million-dollar payday, I will also tell you the steps that you need to take to become a successful snitch. The first reason that the SEC has set up this program is that it's very hard to collect evidence on the white-collar crime they go after. Insider trading hurts regular investors, but if the insiders are careful about their communications channels, they can make it almost impossible to collect evidence even with full-time surveillance. The senior business people and financial professionals that regularly have access to material non-public information are going to know the laws and how to get around them. The SEC admits that a significant amount of clearly illegal activity goes undetected or unpunished. Independent investigations have estimated that only about 15% of financial crimes are ever detected, and even fewer are enforced. So the SEC needs informants to do its job.
I think of all areas of fraud, I think that's perhaps where we need whistleblowers the most, right? To unravel some of these complex fraud schemes that hide behind numbers. It's hard without that whistleblower.
Nobody knows exactly what this $279 million payout was made for, because the SEC keeps that information private as well. But with such a big payment, it's not hard to work backwards and figure it out for ourselves. The SEC awards between 10 and 30% of the money collected from financial sanctions that exceed $1 million to whistleblowers that provided material contributions that made the conviction possible. 30% would be awarded to an informant if they presented the case to the SEC on a silver platter with filed and dated irrefutable evidence and closing arguments for good measure. 10% would be awarded to an informant if they just reported a tip and helped with an ongoing investigation. Most payouts would be somewhere between these 2 possible payouts. For the $279 million reward, the money collected by the SEC would need to be between $930 million and $2,790 million. Fines that make big headlines, and the only fine that falls into that range recently was a $2 billion settlement that Wall Street firms had to pay to the SEC as punishment for letting employees use WhatsApp to share messages between themselves. All communications between employees at financial institutions conducting potentially market-moving operations must be maintained for a minimum of 3 years in case the authorities need to review it. When the banking staff were sending encrypted WhatsApp messages between each other, the SEC had no other way of knowing if they were planning a Friday afternoon dinner or conducting insider trading. The SEC would have no way of uncovering this problem or forcing a settlement so quickly if it wasn't for one now very wealthy informant that proved definitely that the people were using the program for business communications. And that's just reason 1 why multi-million-dollar payouts are worth making.
So being a whistleblower could be pretty good business.
It is. We've given out $57 million now to people since the program started in 2011, and $30 million in one case, and that's, it's life-changing.
So it's time to learn how money works to find out how billions of dollars worth of government-funded prize money has actually paid for itself many times over, and how it could be surprisingly easy for you to get one of these payouts for yourself. This week's lesson was sponsored by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning platform that offers not only a multitude of inspiring and creative classes, but also provides numerous classes focused on career development. By aligning with your unique learning journey, Skillshare cultivates new professional possibilities. Traditional career paths may not suit everyone's requirements, which is why Skillshare delivers customized classes to guide you through your fresh career path. I recently finished a class titled Creative Confidence and Silencing Your Inner Critic. As I grow as a content creator and want to expand beyond how money works and how history works, I'm looking for the creative confidence to do so. This class helped me develop that confidence to work towards my next channel, which will be my personal one. This is merely one example of the numerous classes available on Skillshare that can aid in achieving your professional objectives. Start your learning journey today with Skillshare. The first 1,000 of my viewers to join through the link in the description will get 1 month free of Skillshare so you can achieve your new career goals this year. The second reason that the SEC is paying millions of dollars to informants instead of using the money to pay back the victims of financial crime or taxpayers is that it's very profitable. When a company pays a fine to the SEC, they transfer it into the Investor Protection Fund. The fines and settlements are normally equal to the amount of damage caused to the victims, with additional fines on top of that to make sure that the payments to the SEC don't just become the cost of doing business. The first group to be paid out of this fund are the victims when there is a case of clear wrongdoing resulting in material damages for a group. In the case of the WhatsApp settlement, there was no such clear group. So the whistleblower got their cut, and then the rest of the money will be used by the SEC to fund further investigations, reducing the expense to the taxpayer to fund this authority. The whistleblower program has resulted in more convictions that actually cost less money to pursue. Investigations can cost the SEC millions of dollars and result in no convictions. Most cases also don't result in billion-dollar settlements, so even if the SEC wins, it often ends up costing them more to investigate a case than they make back from a successful settlement. In 2022, the SEC recovered a record $6.4 billion in penalties on behalf of the investing public from a total of 760 enforcement actions. That record haul was thanks to the success of the whistleblower program that the SEC mentioned 10 times in their press release. The average penalty paid was $8.4 million, and that average is pulled up by a lot of few very large cases. That means if every single case involved an informant that voluntarily provided information, the average payout would be between $840,000 and $2,520,000. Getting insiders to do most of the legwork on smaller cases that wouldn't otherwise be profitable to investigate means that the SEC can stop more fraud on a tighter budget even if they need to make record settlements. Lots of small acts of fraud can do just as much damage to regular investors as a few big cases. The whistleblower program has sent the message that nobody is safe just because they aren't worth going after. And that gets us on nicely to the third reason that the SEC is happy to pay billions of dollars to informants. It gets attention. The SEC has taken a page out of the Mr. Beast's playbook and found that when they make big payouts to informants, it gets a lot of media attention. And it obviously works because I am making this video now. Effective law enforcement is about visibility. Someone is less likely to speed if they have a cop behind them, and they are not as likely to defraud their customers or commit insider trading if they have read articles about people making millions by snitching on their co-conspirators. 2022 was a record year for fraud, and the SEC only has a 4,500 person staff and a $3 billion budget they have to make themselves appear bigger than they really are. Running a program that is making people millionaires is the best way to make sure no would-be corporate wrongdoer feels safe. A crime never committed is the best outcome for everyone. So, if you hate your boss and you would be willing to turn them into the feds for $1 million payday, here are the steps to actually do it. You don't even need to be an American. The SEC received a total of 26,076 tips between 2011 and 2018. Those came from 114 different countries, the top 5 being the United Kingdom, Canada, China, Australia, and India. The SEC will pay out money to anybody with credible information regardless of where they live. Step 1 is to actually have some information that could lead to action being taken against an individual or a company committing securities violations. Once you have that, step 2 is literally as simple as going to the SEC's website and clicking Submit a Tip. Then you fill out the questions, providing your contact information, and submitting any evidence you have of wrongdoing. By choosing to be a part of the SEC whistleblower program, your identity and the information you provided will not be shared with any third parties, including current or potential future employers, which is a good thing if you want to keep your job while waiting on your snitch check to come through. Step 3 is that you may be contacted by the SEC if they need additional information about the tips you provided. Step 4 is just waiting around. SEC investigations take between 6 months and 3 years to complete, according to law firms that deal with these cases, so this is not a tip for fast money. While waiting, you should check the Claim and Award page on the SEC website. This lists all the judgments from cases brought forward by the SEC, like this one against NBA Hall of Famer Paul Pierce, who was charged by the SEC for promoting the cryptocurrency Emacs on Twitter without disclosing that he was being paid $244,000 by the creators of Emacs. Even if you have never submitted a tip or committed insider trading, I definitely recommend checking out this page because it's full of cases like this. It's honestly what I imagine CoffeeZilla's happy place is. Pierce agreed to settle this particular case for $1,409,000, which is over the $1 million benchmark for the Whistleblower Awards program. If you had submitted information in relation to this case, step 5 would be to fill out this form here and try to claim your award. You can send the form by post or email to the address on the SEC website within 90 days of the judgment being made public on the Claim and Award page. Submissions are then reviewed along with the tips you sent in the first place and are either accepted or denied. You can also find a list of the claims made on the SEC website and their judgment. If the judgment is denied, then the office will provide reasons for the denial with all personal information redacted to protect the whistleblower privacy. Most of the claims do get denied normally, because they did not provide original information to the case. Sending the SEC to Paul Pierce's tweets wouldn't qualify you as an informant because he made the evidence public himself like the financial genius he is. If your claim is approved, a letter will be sent to you with information regarding your cut of the proceeds and a return letter to provide your wiring information. This video was obviously made just for fun, but I also spend a lot of time on this channel debunking misinformation about personal finance that could be costing you money. There are other creators out there that are fighting the good fight, but educating people can only do so much. The best way to make fraudsters stop taking advantage of regular people is to make them pay back everything they have ever made from their grift and more. And if you can get paid a few $1 million for it, even better. But maybe the real first step is to get into a position where you are actually going to have access to material market information, like being an investment banker. But if you're unsure what that job involves, go and watch my video on what the fuck investment bankers actually do. A special thanks again to Skillshare for making it possible for everybody to keep on learning how money works.